Flipping in Hypixel Skyblock is one of the best, if not the best, money making method in the game right now. And because of its nature, it is virtually unkillable and will never die as a money making method. So that's why in this video, I'm going to be going through a couple of ways which you can flip and make loads of money. So if you want to know how you can make tons of money, then keep watching. And without further ado, let's go on into the video. So if you're wondering how this video is going to work, I'm going to be talking about three major categories. Firstly, flipping using the NPC, secondly, using the Bazaar to flip, and then finally, the most complicated, using the auction house to flip. So let's start off with the NPC flipping. So the first type of NPC flipping is buying items from the NPC and selling it to Bazaar. Let's be real here, this makes around 20,000 coins for like a decent amount of work, so yeah, just do not bother with doing this, it's completely worthless. However, there is another type of NPC flipping, and that is buying items, for instance enchanted snow or enchanted clay, below the NPC price and then selling it to the NPC to make a profit. To show you a really quick example here, I've got these enchanted snow blocks. Now if I place an order for 20,000 of these, which I know it is quite a lot, here you can see these orders actually fill super duper quickly, and I've already filled 2,000 in literally about 3 seconds of placing the order. In total, to sell all this to the NPC, it still probably takes like around 4 minutes. However, you can see that from just this flip alone, you actually make 400k because you make a 20 coin profit on 20,000 snow blocks. And do some simple maths, 20 times 20,000 is 400k, which is actually pretty good considering it's only around 5 minutes of work. This also has zero entry requirement, which means that for me, it's actually a pretty viable money making method for really early game players. However, despite this, it is incredibly boring. So now that is all types of flipping using the NPC out of the way, so let's move on to the Bazaar flipping. But before we do that, if you're enjoying the video and finding it helpful, then please consider liking and subscribing the video because I'd really appreciate it. And anyways, I don't want to waste any more of your time, but let's jump right back into the video. So now we're going to move on to Bazaar flipping. So the first type of Bazaar flipping is just a very conventional sort of Bazaar flipping. You just make a buy offer and then you make a sell offer for the exact same thing. For instance, I placed an order 1,000 enchanted mutton, and this has cost me about 3.36 million coins. However, if I go and make a sell offer for this, you can see I'm making around 3.5 million coins. In total, we're making around 150,000 coin flip. This sounds really insignificant, but if you just do this with like 10 other items, then if you're good at it, you can actually make a decent amount of money. However, one thing you should absolutely know is that you should have a good knowledge of the item that you're actually flipping. Now what I mean by this is that you should know how you can actually get the item, and also what is the item actually used for and how many players actually need the item. For example, flipping something that has really low demand is not really a clever idea because there's no guarantee that you'll actually be able to sell that item. Now let's move on to the second type of Bazaar flipping, and this is simply just craft flipping. In here what you do is, you place an order on the Bazaar to craft a specific item, like the example I'm going to show you is a decapitator. I placed an order for 6 enchanted jungle wood and 1,000 enchanted obsidian, and this is enough to craft me 2 tree capitators. This cost me around 2.5 million coins, and if I go in the auction house and search up a tree capitator, but usually the prices are more around 1.6 million coins, which means that with normal prices, you can usually expect to make around 500,000 coins profit. Craft flipping, in my opinion, is actually one of the best money making methods because it's completely passive. You just log on like a couple of times a day and refill your flips, and in my experience, it's made me so much money. And when I say billions, I'm not even exaggerating at that point. Tree capitators are something that's worked fairly well for me, however there are so many items and the possibilities are absolutely endless. And anyways, that concludes Bazaar flipping, so now let's move on to the more juicy stuff. We go to auction flipping. So yeah, you know what I said before about having a good knowledge of the item that you're actually going to be flipping? Well, this is especially important in auction flipping because the markets are so player based. Also, another thing you should watch out for, if an item is being market manipulated, which you can usually see by looking at a graph of the item, then absolutely just don't touch that item. There is a small chance which you can make a lot of money, but usually I just wouldn't really get involved with that if something like that is happening. Auction flipping actually takes a whole lot of skill and a whole lot of game knowledge, which is why I'm not actually that good at it myself, but I'm just going to be going over the core elements of how it actually works. So the first type of auction flipping is again extremely conventional, and that is simply going on auctions on ending soon, looking for items that may possibly be around a 10% flip and then selling it on buy it now. For example, this gemstone drill, if I for instance thought that this was actually worth 5 million coins, then I can make a bid for this, but I would keep on bidding until this gets to around 5 million coins, and then I would go sell it on the buy it now. How you have to look at this kind of auction flipping is it's kind of a service in a way. The people who are buying it on buy it now are paying for a service for you to transit the items from the auction house to buy it now, which is more convenient for them. However, I don't really actually like this kind of money making method because I just find it's really inconsistent for me, and I just don't find that I make that much profit off it. And for me, craft flipping or something like that or bazaar flipping is a lot more consistent. So the next type of auction flipping is going to be pretty similar but not entirely the same. Now this is what I call bin sniping. Now what this essentially is where you look on the auction house for things that are way undervalued. Now often this can come in the forms of things like shadow assassin armor. There are some people for some reason that sell like cracked, starred, hot potato books like ancient, and they sell it for way cheaper than they should have. This deal is actually pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and buy this. If you then look in the auction house, you can probably see that I can actually probably get away with selling this for around 1.8 million coins, which means I probably made around a 600,000 coin profit on this item. You can do this with most items, but most often the things that work well are like things like weapons, armor, and often actually attribute shards and pets as well. This in my opinion actually works better than traditional auction flipping just because I think it's more consistent and you get bigger margins on the whole. So those are the two kind of auction flipping methods that I find most consistent and they're probably most traditional. However, now I'm going to go in different methods involving the auction house, and that's going to be lowballing and market manipulation. Now, to be honest, if you want an actual guide on this, then I would recommend watching another YouTuber which is more experienced in this, but in this video, I'm just going to be outlining the core principle of it. So if you go to, for instance, Hub 1, you'll see that a lot of people are advertising lowballing. Now, this is very simple indeed. What this basically is essentially where you go visit their island, and then you give them an item, and then they will pay you how much they think that item is worth, how much they can make a profit on the auction house. Essentially how it works is that you're essentially just paying a service for you to sell your items right now instantly, and then they'll take more time to actually go and sell the item later on. So in a way, both people are actually kind of benefiting from it. Lowballers can make serious amounts of money, upwards of like 50 million coins an hour, depending on how actually skilled you are and how good at it, and also how trusted you are as a lowballer. However, you have to be very careful with what items you lowball, because if you do it wrong, then you can actually end up losing quite a lot of money, which is not something you want to end up with. Now, if you thought lowballing was risky, market manipulation is a whole nother level. This is essentially where you choose an item that not many people want, not many people supply, and then you buy out that entire thing, massively inflating the price, and then start selling it again, and then making a profit. Now, in theory, this is flawless. However, there are so many things that can go wrong, and to be honest, I would only recommend this unless you're actually really skilled at doing it. And although you can make absolutely astronomical amounts of money, it is easy, I mean very easy, to lose large amounts of money doing this. So, now we get to the conclusion, and in here, I'm just going to be going over everything we just talked about and summarizing it very briefly. Firstly, NPC flipping. NPC flipping from NPC to Bazaar is pretty much worthless and you shouldn't do it. Bazaar to NPC is actually quite good with a couple of select items, and if you're relatively early game and if you want a really consistent money making method, then I would actually pretty much recommend it. Moving on to bazaar flipping. Traditional bazaar flipping, where you just buy and create a sell offer, is pretty reliable and consistent. However, I'm not actually so much of a fan of it, just because I don't really like it as much, but hey, that's personal preference. The other method is craft flipping from bazaar to auction house, and for me, that is really good, and I completely recommend that because that's how I've actually made most of my money on here on Hypixel Skyblock. And with auction flipping, pushing aside lowballing and market manipulation because those are completely separate things, traditional auction house flipping, where you're looking at auctions to buy it now, definitely works. However, I find that it's a bit more risky, and in my opinion, I much prefer bin sniping because I think the profits are larger and it's probably more consistent as well. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and just before we go away, I'd just like to ask you again that if you enjoy my content, then I'd really appreciate it if you took the time to just scroll down and hit the subscribe button. Also, join my Discord because we host 20 million coin giveaways every single week, which is pretty pog, and link is in the description. And with that, thank you very much for watching to the end of this video, and I hope you make tons of money flipping on the NPC Bazaar and the auction house. See you next week.